So this is the Panasonic 4K Sony DSLR. I'm going to show you really quickly how to use it. So the first thing that you want to do is on the left side of the lens cap over here, there's a little switch that's going to be, if it's set to the bottom like this, you want to press it up. You should hear a click. That is your lens cap. So I turn the camera around and then my finger on the switch, that closes the lens cap. You want to make sure that's open. So if we look on the inside of the display right here, there's a bunch of different buttons that I want to point out. So down here, this is your power button. This thumbnail button right here, this button will allow you to re-watch the last clip that you recorded. I like to do that whenever I'm shooting footage. You can go in and record a test clip and then go back and check that test clip to make sure that everything's working out just fine. Display mode, that merely checks the menu, so you can go in and mess with the settings. Over here, we have our two SD card slots. It has a little window that I can close like that, and then I can reopen it. So there are two SD card slots in there. You want to make sure that one of these slots is filled. It has two lights on, so that will give you some recognition as to whether or not you have an SD card. White balance, this button is only going to be really important if you're swapping between indoor and outdoor shooting. So basically what you do is this button will tell the camera what color is white. So this is going to help with saturation. So usually what you want to do is just put a blank piece of paper in front of the camera and then hit that button, and it'll tell the camera, okay, this is the color white, and then you can go from there. These buttons down at the bottom right here, these control iris gain, shutter, all that other sort of stuff. You usually just want to have all that set on auto at the very beginning. So now we're looking at the rear of the camera. This red button right here, that is your record button. Over here on this side, we have the battery unlock lever. So if you press this button up, that unlocks the battery, that allows you to change the battery. And over here on the right hand side, a little underneath the record button, pull that out. That's a headphone jack. All right, headphone jack is going to be very important when you're recording. This allows you to make sure that you're actually getting audio out of your microphones, especially if you're doing a shoot where you're using two microphones at the same time. I'll explain that in a second. So now we are looking at the top of the camera right here. There's another record button that you can use up here. This is your shotgun microphone. This will record audio in a set direction from wherever you point it. So it's very good when you're trying to get footage from a great distance. All of the DSLRs should come with this microphone. It's pretty good. And then finally we have your zoom switch. It's kind of obscured in shadow. Here it is right here. So this button will zoom out. This button will zoom in. So you can use that to adjust to your liking. If I move a little bit closer over here, there are two different wheels on the front of the lens. This one right here is going to be the most important. That is your focus. So if your footage is looking a little blurry, then what you can do is move this wheel around, and that will change how the focus looks. So I'm going to change the focus on my main camera. As you can see, I moved the wheel and the footage is getting blurry and grainy. So you want to specifically try and tune it so it looks nice and sharp, just like that. And all you do is you just turn this wheel and you mess around with it for a little bit, and then you should be able to get nice and clear footage. Now we are looking at the viewfinder on the screen right here. So in the top right hand corner, you should see a battery symbol right here. That is your battery life. Make sure that you have a fully charged battery when you're going in to do a shoot. At the top middle of the screen, you can see we have two SD cards plugged in. The first one says 341 minutes. The second one has 170 minutes remaining. That is how much card space that you have. So
If you somehow think 341 minutes of footage is not going to be enough, then you have an option to plug in a second SD card, and that will automatically record to the second SD card if you happen to run out of space on the first one. But just check those two to make sure that you have enough space before going to do your footage. This is just the type of file that you're going to be recording on. The last important one that I want to point out is these two bars at the bottom right here. Watch what happens if I stop talking for a second. You see how those bars stop moving? Those are your audio levels. So you want to make sure before you hit record that you're getting audio on those bars. So you usually just want to talk or just pan the camera around. Make sure that you're getting everything correctly. All right? The final thing I want to talk about is this part on the camera. It's right above the lens. I open up this dust cover. As you can see, there's a lot of different buttons over here, but the main one I want to draw your attention to is this one right here, this lever. Now, if you're ever in a situation where you need to use two microphones, let's say you're trying to interview somebody and you want that speaker to be holding a microphone and you want to capture audio from that microphone, this button is what you're going to want to fiddle with. What you're going to want to do is take this switch right here and set that to input 2. The reason why you do that is because on the opposite side of the camera over here, there is a slot for a second microphone. On the opposite side, as you can see, there is a slot for a second microphone. This is the one that the camera comes with. There is a slot for a second microphone. So this is where you would plug it in. Now, if you take a look at our audio levels here, I currently have channel 2 set as a separate input. And as you can see, there is no audio being recorded on that. That is because I have the input set on channel 2 to record separate audio, but there is no microphone plugged in, so it's not registering anything. If you had a second microphone plugged in, you would be seeing 2 separate audio tracks. And if you have headphones plugged in, you would have audio coming in from one microphone in one ear and audio from the other microphone coming in your other ear. So that is why having a microphone and headphones are very good when you're doing a shoot with multiple microphones, so that you can tell if you're receiving the audio clearly. Now, there is a way to fix that in post-production, and I will show you how to do that in a separate video. But for right now, this is what you're going to want to look at. So if you ever happen to be in a situation where you're seeing I'm only getting audio on channel 1, but you're not using 2 microphones at the same time, check your inputs on that display that I showed you earlier and make sure that both of your microphones are set to the same channel. And that is about all the basics that you need to know when it comes to operating a Sony Panasonic 4K DSLR. Now, I'm going to show you some different movements that you will need to be aware of when you are operating a camera. All right, so now I'm going to demonstrate some different terminologies that you will need to be aware of when you are working with a camera and different types of shots. So for example, if you have a director and they are asking you to get a specific type of shot, you need to be aware of what that means. So we have our friend Mr. Teddy Bear over here who is going to be the stand-in for our town. So the first thing that I want to show you is panning. Panning means the side-to-side movement of the camera. So I pan left here, pan right here, and then pan back to center. Next is tilt. That is the up and down movement of the camera. So tilt up, tilt down, tilt back to center. The last one that I'm going to show you that will be of immediate relevance is zooming. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. We're going to zoom in, and then we zoom back out. Zoom in, zoom back out. Another thing that I'm going to teach you is shot placement and framing. What a shot is whatever you can see on screen. So right now, this is my shot. Now, framing is what you want to do whenever you have a talent like this and you want to position them in an optimal way on screen. So as you can see, Mr. Teddy is sitting here on camera, but we have a lot of extra space. You can see the chair off to the left, and there's a lot of empty space above his head. That is called headroom. you don't want to give your talent too much headroom. So what we're going to do to adjust this, we're going to tilt a little bit to the right. We're going to zoom in, pan a little bit up, give him a decent bit of headroom, zoom in just a tad, tilt up just a tad, and there we go. Now Mr. Teddy is framed in an optimal way. He is the center of attention, and there isn't much around for the audience's eyes to be drawn to other than Mr. Teddy. Imagine, if you will, that your talent and your shot is split into a 3x3 grid. For example, a subject's eyes should intersect with the top line, and their forehead should intersect the 1/3 line either on the left or on the right. To simplify what that means, you want to make it so that your talent is on the center of the screen and give them a little bit of lead room. So pretend, for instance, that Mr. Bear is being interviewed. Now we have someone who would be sitting in the chair off to the left, and then we have Mr. Bear sitting over here, and he's the one being interviewed. So for our first shot, let's pretend that we want to get both the interviewer and the interviewee in shot. So I'm going to pan a little bit down, off to the left, and there we go. So now we can see clearly both subjects would be in frame. You see how Mr. Teddy has a little bit of headroom above him? That's intentional. You don't want to cut your talent's head off at the top of the screen. If I pan it down to where you can only see the top of the screen, now he has way too much room focused on his feet. You don't want to do that, because now your audience's eyes are going to be drawn there. You don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that your audience is going to have their eyes drawn to his center of mass and his person. So now we're going to focus on Mr. Teddy specifically. So he's a little bit out of placement. As you can see, there's a ton of room off to the right. There's a good amount of headroom, but there's still a lot of room off to the right that we don't want. So we're going to pan a little bit, tilt up, zoom in, keep tilting up because the zoom is going to affect that. And there we go. That looks pretty good. So now we have Mr. Bear in the center of frame. So imagine, if you will, the rule of thirds once again. Just try and imagine that invisible line and where Mr. Bear's eyes are going to be. They should be relatively close to that top middle line, at least for the top middle square. All right? So keep that in mind whenever you're trying to frame your shot. It usually comes down to practice and intuition. And after a lot of practice, you will eventually get the hang of it. Now I'm going to demonstrate to you a couple of different shots. So we're going to start with the extreme wide shot. So the extreme wide shot is extremely self-explanatory. It's as far out as the camera will go. So if I hold down the zoom button, now the camera is as zoomed out as it can possibly be. This is our extreme wide shot. For example, if you're filming a sports game, an extreme wide shot would be the entire field, showing everything that's happening all at once. Now we're going to go in and we're going to tighten this up a little bit. Tighten up just a tad. Now we're on a bit of a wide shot. So the wide shot doesn't show everything, but you are getting a lot of stuff in frame. We're going to move to Mr. Bear. Now we're going to go for a medium shot. So a medium shot is usually from the waist up. All right? So now we have a medium shot of Mr. Bear. We're seeing his head and we're seeing his stomach. We're getting from the waist up. That is a medium shot. Now we're going to move in a little bit tighter. Now we are on a close-up. This is a close-up of Mr. Bear's head. All right? This is when you want to get a little bit more personal with your talent. You want to show their facial expressions, the way their lips are moving while they're talking. This is a much more personable angle. Now we're going for the extreme close-up. This is as close as we're going to dare to get. You only typically see this in movies where you want to get a very dramatic angle, very close up to your talent's eyes, as the eyes act as the window to the soul. So this is a shot that you're not going to see very often, but it is one that does exist. So keep that in mind. This is the extreme close-up. We're going to back up. This is a close-up. Back up. Medium shot. Back up. Wide shot. Back up. Extreme wide shot.